Welcome to Victor Narrates Reddit. Like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss the next story. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments. Now, let's begin. Every respectable individual should defend their honor and not become a doormat. I believe one must fight for their honor and dignity. My wife's infidelity left a deep mark on me. I had a thirst for revenge that grew stronger every day. I wanted justice to prevail, but on the other hand, I didn't want to let my emotions dominate me. Unfortunately, I failed. My name is Dave, and I would like to share a little story explaining why I am sitting in my kitchen at 2:30 p.m. on a weekday, a time when I would normally be working. You see, I feel the need to explain the 4 phone calls and the single text message I've sent during the 2 hours I've been here so far, spending roughly 1 hour and 45 minutes thinking and 15 minutes taking actions that could disrupt numerous lives. Excuse me, is someone at the door? Oh, hi, honey. Where's Fiona? I asked. I called Stuart, and he came home early. He'll pick her up from kindergarten and take care of her until I get back. Linda, I've mentioned it before, but I'll say it again. He's a fantastic guy. I know it's customary for a father to be wary of his son-in-law, but you chose so wisely that I can't help but love him. My daughter offered a faint smile at my comment. We shared a similar sense of humor. Have you informed my brother, Dad? No, your brother is currently at sea. I'll send him an email later. All right, Dad. I'm here for you. You know that. Yes. Thank you, honey. We sat in silence for a while. Why would she do this, Dad? I don't know, sweetheart. But why hasn't she said anything? Actually, I haven't spoken to her yet, so she's still. Yes. I watched as my daughter's worried gaze shifted toward the staircase leading to the master bedroom. I simply wanted to wait so she could explain to all of us why she did it. At the same time, to all of us. Yes, I've invited a few more guests. They should arrive soon. What is your plan? Only what is necessary to survive this. So, do you have a plan yet? Yes, but it doesn't depend on our motive. Why? The facts speak for themselves. The motive is irrelevant, though she could have been coerced. But trust me, if you had witnessed what I saw and heard what I heard, you'd know she wasn't being coerced. Linda stared at me. For a moment, I thought you were handling this well, but now I see that you aren't. You're struggling, aren't you? I turned away, shielding my daughter from witnessing her father's tears. What should I do? She asked. Follow your conscience. My opinion of you won't change regardless of your decision. Thanks, Dad. Do you have any idea why Mom would do this? I have no idea, honey. I thought our marriage was solid until this morning. What happened this morning? She asked. Well, your mother has never been good at hiding things. After 27 years together, I know her routines well. She showers every morning, washes her hair on Tuesdays and Fridays, and spends a consistent amount of time getting ready. But this morning, she was in the bathroom much longer than usual. When I went to check on her, I noticed she wasn't wearing her usual work clothes. When I asked about her plans, she lied, saying it was a normal day, but her demeanor was unusually calm. That was when I knew something wasn't right. What did you do then? I called in sick to work and parked nearby. I planned to follow her when she left, but she didn't go anywhere. I stayed put until the guy she works with at the real estate office showed up around 11:30. I snuck inside, confirmed my suspicions, and then contemplated my next move. After that, I made a few calls, and here we are. Did you notice any signs before today, Dad? I mean, anything suspicious? I always thought you two were rock solid. No, honey, nothing at all. As far as I knew, we were in love, planning to work a few more years and then happily retire together. Dad, do I even have to ask? Don't go there, Linda. No, I have never betrayed your mother. I have never disrespected a woman like that in my life. Even when our intimate life dwindled a couple of years ago, I simply accepted it. What? You two haven't been intimate in 2 years. That's right. Your mother wasn't very sexually expressive. She said she didn't enjoy it much. Sure, it seemed like she did at first, but simply getting started became the problem when she hit menopause 2 years ago. Whatever spark I used to see just vanished. So, finding her today, it must have been hard. I looked away, allowing my steely intensity to convey my feelings. At that moment, there was another knock at the door. I opened it to find my father-in-law waiting outside. Come in, Paul. Thanks, Dave. Where is she? She's upstairs in our bedroom. All right, I need to see it for myself. I understand. Feel free to go up, sir, but please try not to disturb her. The old man walked up the stairs and returned a minute later, visibly aged by years. He collapsed into a chair. I poured him a whiskey, which he downed in one gulp. I can't believe she betrayed you like this. She saw how destroyed you were when your previous fiancé cheated on you. She helped you through all of that. And not only that, she knows the pain I suffered when her mother left with that scumbag, abandoning me and the kids. I'm sorry, I have to go. I suppose a woman shouldn't witness her grandfather's tears, either. I walked him to the door. Linda looked as if she wanted to join us, but I gestured for her to stay back. I wanted the old man to retain whatever dignity he had left. He stood on the porch, gripping my shoulders to steady himself. Do what needs to be done, son, but no physical altercations. Understand? I couldn't bear to witness that. Don't worry, Dad. I won't hurt your daughter. But as for the rest, I'm sorry for what I am going to do. A man has to do what a man has to do. He stared at me for a moment, then nodded. He slowly made his way to his car and drove off, a broken man. I called his son, my wife's brother, and without going into details, convinced him to visit their father to offer support. I was about to hang up when I heard the sound of the toilet flushing upstairs. Look at that, Linda. Does that seem like coercion to you? No, Dad. How can you stand staying down here? Why not go up and confront the guy? Well, it's not that simple, honey. I have this ability to detach emotionally. I can disconnect from all feelings, you know? Oh, so that's where I get it from. Then why put yourself through this? Why not go up, intervene, and kick the woman out? Because we are missing one more person. Right then, there was another knock on the door. I opened it to find a reasonably well-dressed woman, a few years younger than me. Surprisingly, she had a teenage son and daughter with her, looking to be in their mid to late teens. You're Mr. Brown, right? Yes. Please call me Dave. I'm Jenny Smith, and these are my children, Robert and Sarah. I picked them up from school. If what you're saying is true, I wanted them to be here, if only to understand that it was their father who destroyed our family. I greeted Robert with a firm handshake, surprised by his strength. Then I introduced everyone to Linda. You mentioned having proof, Dave, Jenny said. In response, I walked over to a pair of pants draped over the arm of the couch, pulled out a wallet, and handed it to Jenny. She opened it and examined the driver's license, a tear escaping her eye. It seemed she had clung to the hope that my phone call had been a mistake. Her expression hardened. So, Dave, where are they? Instead of answering, I pressed a finger to my lips, signaling for silence. We sat quietly, listening to the murmurs and movements upstairs. Damn it. Haven't you confronted them yet? She whispered. No, I thought it was better to tackle this together. I captured some pictures and placed a voice recorder under the bed. We can act now if you're ready. Perhaps the kids should wait until things calm down. Agreed. Just a moment, though. I have a locksmith ready to change my locks. I wanted to be absolutely sure before giving the green light. This isn't his first time, honestly. He's a smooth-talking little creep. Linda and I waited while she called the locksmith and her lawyer, authorizing them to distract the kids from any upcoming commotion. We maintained a meaningless conversation. Jenny finally straightened up. All right, let's do this. Jenny, Linda, and I crept up the stairs while the kids stayed downstairs waiting for a signal. After Jenny cautiously peeked through the door, I signaled the others to stay hidden and walked into the room. Standing at the foot of the bed, I watched in disgust. I will never forget the scene of my wife's infidelity. I stood passive, watching as she rolled onto her back. Our eyes met, and her expression morphed from shock into a scream. Her lover, noticing her reaction, also looked in my direction. He started to get up. They looked ridiculous. However, as he stood up, he paused, meeting my gaze with a growing fear for his immediate physical safety. That's right. You're a piece of work. I might be bigger, uglier, and trust me, much angrier than you. Why don't you crawl back into bed and cover yourself up with my ex-wife? He was undeniably obedient in bed, among other things. In no time, they were huddled together under the sheets. I watched the transition in Tracy's expression from shock to defiance. I let her speak first. Dave, I want a divorce. I've fallen in love with Joe, the guy here. I'm sorry you had to find out like this. We were going to tell you tomorrow. All right, my dear wife. I had a hunch. Eventually, I would learn his name was actually John Smith, wouldn't I? Their expressions gave them away. It wasn't the wisest decision to leave your wallet in your pants pocket downstairs, you idiot. Tracy, just out of curiosity, why did you choose to end our marriage like this? You must have known that catching you cheating on me would destroy me. I finally detected a hint of shame on her face. I'm sorry, Dave. We couldn't help falling in love. I get that, honey, but you could have avoided rushing into it. You could have avoided sleeping with this creep before announcing you wanted a divorce. No, I'm sorry, Dave. I just wanted to make sure John and I were compatible, you know? We didn't want you to catch us. And if it helps, this was the first time. What? Test driving the new model, so to speak? Try it on to see if it fits. Don't be vulgar, Dave. I don't want our marriage to end in a fight. Can't we just part as friends? She almost broke through my mental defenses. I assumed that, in the heat of the moment, she recited a speech she had pre-prepared for tomorrow. You've got to be kidding me. You're lying in my bed with another man, and you want to end things as friends? That is not going to happen. We stared at each other until Tracy looked away. I decided it was time to quantify the pain. Your father wanted me to pass on how disappointed he is in you. He had hoped you wouldn't end up like your mother. You didn't. Tracy's face went completely pale. Yes, I did. I'm surprised you didn't see him. He was standing right here less than half an hour ago. Why? Because I wanted you to feel the pain I've been feeling ever since this scumbag showed up. I don't know what the kids will think of all this. Oh my God, Dave, please don't involve the kids. Please. Sorry, honey, it's too late. At that precise moment, Linda stepped into view through the doorway. Seeing the movement, Tracy let out a shriek before quickly hiding her face under the sheets. Don't even try to hide, Mom. Denial doesn't work for ostriches, and it won't work for you either. The remark was severe. Tracy remained hidden under the covers, emitting only muffled sobs. Her bedmate looked visibly uncomfortable. When Dad called me, I wanted to believe you hadn't done this to him. But now, seeing you like this, I understand why he reached out. If I hadn't witnessed it myself, I might have begged him to forgive you. But now I know that is completely out of the question, Linda continued. The room fell silent, broken only by the sound of deep sobbing. Well, if you have nothing to say, Mom, I'll say it all. You will not be babysitting your granddaughter this weekend. And if keeping her away from your toxic influence means cutting you off completely, then consider yourself separated from her forever. A pitiful no came from beneath the sheets. Linda began to cry as well. You should have seen Grandpa's face earlier. You have completely broken him. Linda tried to run away, but I caught her and pulled her into a hug. She broke free and rushed down the stairs. Shortly after, the sound of the front door slamming echoed through the house. A few minutes passed before Tracy reemerged, her eyes swollen with tears. Why did you do that, Dave? Because you haven't experienced even a fraction of the pain I have, Tracy. You haven't felt your heart being ripped out and trampled on. But you will, I promise you. I'm tired of pretending. Just get out of my house, both of you. Tracy's defiance flared in her eyes once more. If anyone is leaving this house, it will be you. I used the power of attorney you granted me, in case anything ever happened to you, to transfer the title of the property solely into my name. The intensity of my own voice took Tracy by surprise. It even surprised me. It was evident from my expression that her confession of another betrayal had only fueled my rage further. She realized she was digging her own moral grave. However, I quickly regained my composure. It's funny how shocking news eventually numbs the pain once it hits a certain threshold. I had reached that threshold 2 hours ago. How do you plan on handling the mortgage, Tracy? Do you think we haven't figured that out? With my salary, commissions, and John's income, we'll manage just fine. What salary, Tracy? Your boss, Mr. Johnson, wanted me to inform both of you that you were fired. He would have told you himself, but it seems you both have your phones turned off. Quite the moralist he is. He didn't take kindly to two married people like yourselves messing around on company time. You didn't tell him, Dave. Please tell me you didn't. Yes, and I sent him some lovely photographs, too. Tracy's bedmate finally spoke up. How did you know I was married? Driver's license, remember? Phone directory. A quick call. Easy. Your wife is Jenny, around 56, with pretty red hair. The kids, Robert and Sarah, seem like good kids. Tell me, were you planning to betray them, just like this woman was planning to betray me? Please, Mr. Brown, don't tell my wife. Why haven't you emptied all your bank accounts yet? Preparing to sail off into the sunset with my wife, since she was going to keep the house. Let me break it to her gently. Please, she doesn't deserve this. I still care about her in my own way. She shouldn't find out like this. You mean she doesn't deserve to find out like I did? Yes, you're right. But unfortunately, it's too late. I didn't have to turn around to know exactly when Jenny and her children walked into the room. The expression on his face told the whole story. It was priceless. It is too late, my dear husband. I will forever be grateful to Mr. Brown here for bringing this to my attention. Just so you know, the evidence he is providing should be more than enough to trigger the prenuptial agreement we signed the last time I forgave you. Tracy's gaze darted toward her partner in bed. In my detached state, I vaguely pondered the reason. Was he a habitual cheater, or was it the realization that their financial plans were now ruined? The lots on my house should be changed by now. If you want to swing by tomorrow morning to pick up your belongings, they will be in the dumpster I'm renting this afternoon. Throughout this outburst, John could only stare at his own feet, a look of sheer horror on his face. Later, I discovered that he was the one who initially pursued Tracy, although the test drive was her idea. His intention had been to confess to his wife and family the very next day. He looked sadly at his wife and briefly at his children, but couldn't hold their gaze. Jenny, though she lost control momentarily, composed herself. Well, kids, if you ever wondered what a traitor looks like, now you know. Tracy shrank under their combined glare. Jenny grabbed her kids and stormed out. I walked over to the bed and addressed the couple with utter contempt. Just get out of my house. You have no idea the rage I'm feeling right now. I will be back in about 2 hours, and I expect both of you to be gone when I return. Tracy, don't even think about trying to cross me. If you do, your chances of a happy ending. No, your chances of survival will drop from slim to none. Understood? One look at my face conveyed the sheer gravity of my intentions for them. I ran after Jenny and intercepted her before they left. We agreed to meet at a cafe, which we did. We comforted each other and guided the kids through the process that lay ahead. Robert showed maturity well beyond his years as he consoled his weeping sister. I deeply wish their father could have witnessed his daughter's heartbreak. I handed Jenny my business card and offered any help I could provide. We parted on good terms. I think the following week proved to be exceptionally difficult. Yes, I am capable of compartmentalizing emotions in times of crisis. However, it only postpones the pain rather than eliminating it. Despite being occupied with work and legal matters, the agony persisted. The lawyer showed great interest in my evidence, especially the voice recorder I had placed under the bed. It captured conversations where the adulterous couple meticulously planned to seize the majority of the marital assets from both households. Tracy rationalized it as her right due to my higher income. While divorce normally assumes an equal split of assets, my lawyer informed me that judges could deviate from this norm, especially when presented with evidence of premeditated deceit. Linda insisted on listening to the recordings as well. We were both shocked by her mother's calculated malice. Linda even called her mother, seeking an explanation, but received nothing that convinced her otherwise. I maintained my composure for Linda's sake and projected strength for my son when he called. But inwardly, I was struggling. The following weekend brought a pleasant surprise. Jenny called me. She expressed her joy at tending her own garden, but confessed she had no idea how to operate the lawnmower. After giving her a few lessons on Sunday and tackling a few other minor maintenance tasks, I was graciously invited to stay for dinner. As we continued our conversation late into the night, after putting the kids to bed, the tone shifted. "How are you holding up, Jenny?" I asked. "As well as can be expected, Dave," she replied. "Thanks for asking. I feel like I've been mentally preparing for this for years. Deep down, I knew it was inevitable. My legal team uncovered their plans for our finances and thwarted them. I couldn't believe he was plotting to leave us practically ruined. My lawyers assure me I will keep the house." receive child support and alimony, and claim 90% of the assets, all thanks to your evidence and the prenuptial agreement. I'm glad I could help, Jen, I said. Mine mentioned a similar outcome, but leaving her with only a fraction of the assets. He showed up 2 days ago, begging for mercy, Jenny continued. I guess his lawyers brought him up to speed on the harsh reality, and the thought of financial ruin terrified him. I sent him packing. My only concern now is the impact on the kids. Sarah is at an age where she can thrive without a father figure, but I worry about Rob. I understand, Jen, I nodded. At his age, a boy truly benefits from a positive male influence. I've been thinking about that. Can I step in? It would be an honor to be part of Rob's life and offer whatever support I can. Jenny fell silent for a moment, visibly conflicted. I realize your situation might be delicate right now, Dave, she began cautiously. I'm not sure how. Don't worry, Jen, I interrupted. Supporting Rob is all I'm offering at this stage. I watched relief flood her face as we dove into the details for a while. And what about you, Dave? Are you okay? I'm not sure, Jen. I'm still incredibly confused. I don't understand what I did to earn so much hatred from her. Seeing her with John just destroyed me. It made me question my own masculinity. Was I really so incompetent? I just can't wrap my head around it. Ruining her relationships with her kids, her father, probably our mutual friends, and getting her fired just doesn't feel like enough somehow. I still feel incomplete. I completely understand your feelings, Dave. Jenny looked at me for a moment, clearly contemplating her next words. Finally, she spoke. You know what you need to do to regain your sense of identity, don't you, Dave? Yes, I know, Jen. How far are you willing to let me go, Jen? Her voice now echoed the same determination. Go as far as you need to rid yourself of those demons, Dave. You are too good a person to let lingering pain dictate your life. Get all out, Dave. All right, I'll need an alibi. You'll have one. Trust me. After she shared her alibi plan with me, we shared a much-needed laugh. Resuming our conversation, it felt like we were only halfway done. And what about you, Jen? Do you feel a desire for revenge against Tracy? God, no. I know how smooth-talking he can be. Your poor wife never stood a chance. I almost pity her. We parted as friends, and she promised to discuss with Rob if he would be interested in helping me restore an old car I owned. He was enthusiastic, and it became our routine for the next 6 weeks. After school, he would come over, and we'd work together. I used every opportunity to discuss my values with him, and we became close friends. However, once I dropped him off at home, my focus shifted. I spent all my free time spying on the happy couple. With our bank accounts frozen by the lawyers, John and Tracy couldn't secure their own place. Tracy was staying with one of her few remaining friends, and John was doing the same. They often spent evenings together before parting ways late at night. Eventually, I established a consistent enough routine to call Jenny one Thursday evening and inform her that the following night would be the time. She arranged for the kids to stay with their grandparents that night. I drove to her house and parked at her driveway. After exchanging a kiss on the lips and a comment, "Give him one for me," I wheeled an old motorcycle belonging to John out the back gate and started it a block away from her house. Arriving at his friend's residence, I scoped out the surroundings and quietly shot out the street lamp with my BB gun. After that, I simply waited in the bushes next to his friend's driveway. He caught me off guard by deviating from his usual routine. Instead of arriving in his car, he showed up in a taxi 40 minutes late. It was obvious from his clumsy exit from the vehicle that he had been drinking. Shouting has never been my inclination. My sense of integrity demanded a fair confrontation. Well, relatively fair. At least as fair as having an affair with a man's wife when he wasn't even aware of your existence. I positioned myself in front of him. "Hello, John." He stopped. His expression froze for a moment. In the dim light, I could see realization begin to spark in his eyes. His reaction wasn't what I expected. Well, they say liquid courage can be deceptive, right? Well, look who it is. The guy who couldn't satisfy his woman. This was a grave mistake on his part. Instantly, my intention to have a restrained confrontation vanished. The deeply offended side of me took over. A swift punch to his jaw sent him to the ground, his arms and knees bracing his weight. After that, my memories became somewhat hazy, but it lasted a long time. Fortunately, the red mist eventually cleared, allowing me to complete the final part of my plan. I picked him up and dragged him into the middle of the road. Maybe the authorities would mistake him for an unfortunate victim of a hit and run, or maybe not. I returned to the motorcycle and rode to a shopping center. In the dim light, I changed my clothes and threw them, along with my gloves, into a dumpster. Then I rode to a block away from Jenny's house and pushed the bike back the rest of the way. Jenny was anxiously awaiting my return and interrogated me about how things had gone. She didn't seem too upset that I had deviated from the plan. In my anger, I realized angry people don't usually grin like Cheshire cats. Once she had all the gritty details, I excused myself to use her shower and wash away any potential evidence. As I was rinsing my hair with my eyes closed, I felt a cool breeze followed by warm skin. A pair of arms wrapped around me from behind. I thought you didn't want this. Forget what I want. You need this. You took the man. Now you need to take his woman. I turned around quickly, and our lips met in a kiss. Man, I really needed that. We finally pulled away from each other. Besides, when the cops come knocking to verify your story, I need to make sure we are totally credible. So wrap it up, big guy, and get to the bedroom. We made love, and I fell asleep. I woke up in the dim pre-dawn light, feeling her return to bed and snuggle up next to me. I'm sorry, Jen. I was exhausted last night. I hope you don't mind if I was only in second gear. God help me if I ever experience your third. Let me show you. I had to prove it to her. After that, we both fell back asleep. I woke up to the smell of breakfast and the sound of coffee being brought to us. Hey, Dave, some idiot broke the rear window of your car last night. I've already called the police. This was accompanied by a sly wink. Indeed, the police arrived and ran my license plate through their database. Shortly after, it was linked to a reported incident of potential assault from the night before. It was fortunate that my alibi and I were together in a house smelling strongly of intimacy. Our nosy neighbor corroborated our story, confirming that my car had been parked there during the time of the assault, just as it had been on numerous occasions over the past few weeks. Unbeknownst to her, I hadn't been sleeping in the spare room like usual. I was never considered a serious suspect. I met with Tracy one more time, about a week after her partner's rough night. She called ahead to inform me of her intention to retrieve the rest of her belongings. Upon learning that everything had already been donated to charity, she expressed a desire to talk anyway. As I watched her car pull up outside, I peeked through the window and saw Tracy standing by her vehicle, engrossed in a phone call. When she finally knocked on the door, I answered it still in my bathrobe, which elicited a disapproving glare from her. Nonetheless, I maintained a neutral expression as I welcomed her inside. After asking for her phone and purse, I locked them in the guest room and closed the door. It was obvious I suspected she might have hidden recording devices. However, considering her outfit, it seemed unlikely she could conceal one on her person. We sat in chairs on opposite sides of the kitchen table. Dave, I want you to know that I've made arrangements with a friend. If I don't call within 60 minutes, she will notify the police. I acknowledged her prudent measure with a nod, but chose to remain silent. I had something to say to her and could wait. Dave, can I express how sorry I am for how our marriage ended? Save your breath, Tracy. I have no interest in sitting here while you try to ease your guilt by rationalizing why you set out to hurt me. The look on her face was priceless, as if she couldn't recognize me. Okay, Dave. It was you who attacked John, wasn't it? Yes. Her shock was evident. She clearly expected me to deny it. But why? He never did anything to you. Come on, Tracy. Infidelity couldn't have clouded your judgment that quickly. Seeing you two together destroyed me, emasculated me, undermined my confidence as a man, made me doubt my ability to satisfy a woman, and stripped away my pride. She was taken aback. It seemed she hadn't considered this aspect of her actions. That is the consequence of infidelity, you know? I eventually realized I had two choices. I could end up like your father, a lonely, sad man devoid of intimacy and purpose, or I could fight my way out of the corner you and your lover had backed me into. Does it really surprise you that I chose the path of resistance? The only option that allowed me to preserve my sense of self? Yes, I dismantled your relationship. And if necessary for my dignity, I would do it again. You forced this confrontation, Tracy. There can only be one victor. To prevent you and him from ruining me, I had to eliminate you both. These words were delivered with such calm, icy certainty that it left no room for doubt. But I hoped that by isolating you from friends, family, and causing you to lose your job, you would be done with me. John and I simply fell in love, Dave. It was out of our control. Surely you remember what it's like to be in love, right, Tracy? I recalled our conversation from 8 weeks prior. As I mentioned then, perhaps falling in love wasn't within your control, but your actions afterwards certainly were. If you had come to me and said, Dave, I've developed feelings for someone else. I want a divorce. I would have been heartbroken. But I would have respected your decision and granted you freedom or fought to save our relationship, depending on my choice at that time. However, by revealing your intentions in such a vicious and cruel manner, you initiated a war, betraying everything I believe in and everything I thought you believed in. And now, Dave, can you let John and me live in peace, now that you've gotten your revenge? Yes, I think I can. If only because I can't think of anything else to destroy. Thank you, Dave. Don't relax just yet, Tracy. I'm not the one you should be worrying about. What do you mean? I've taken my revenge on Johnny Boy, but his wife hasn't even started with you yet. If I were you, I'd watch out for her. She's quite formidable. Just then, an ethereal feminine voice drifted down the stairs from the master bedroom. Are you coming back to bed, Dave? You promised me, remember? Who is that? Jenny. Tracy scrambled away, despite my warning not to involve the police any further. I went upstairs to find Jenny fully dressed. She held me until the trembling subsided. As for Tracy, she had vanished. I never tried to track her down or contact her again. As I mentioned, I am Dave, and I feel fantastic. I once read that seeking revenge against those who have wronged you can leave you feeling empty. Actually, it's the most potent remedy for depression I've ever found. Screw that, it's time to let go of the past. It's too exhausting. A new beginning awaits me. Jen and I never became romantically involved long-term. We used to lean on each other to vent regularly, but we lacked the necessary chemistry to take it further. However, we were close friends and were always there for each other. With our combined support, Rob and Sarah turned out great. I kept my distance when she had prospective boyfriends and refrained from any intimacy until those relationships ended. Some of them were intimidated by me, knowing that if they treated her poorly, they'd have to answer to me before proposing. One even sought my approval, which I gladly gave. Her wedding was emotional, and in the absence of her father, she asked me to walk her down the aisle. It was at her wedding that she introduced me to an old friend of hers. With my own issues resolved, I was emotionally stable enough to pursue a normal relationship. And now, I'm even considering asking Jen to give me away at my wedding. Could I have simply moved on and lived a normal life without confronting the two cheaters? Absolutely not. Hello, I'm Tracy, and my life has taken a negative turn over the past few years. While I might be able to somehow justify my actions from back then, explaining what I did last week will be a bit harder. I apologize. I will clarify. Reflecting on it, my life with Dave used to be good, but it had grown stagnant. The only excitement left was my first granddaughter. So when John started showing interest in me as a woman, I felt rejuvenated, almost like a teenager again. He was attentive and affectionate, and he brought me back to a state of ecstasy. Deep down, I knew our relationship was wrong, but it felt incredibly satisfying. Our bond progressed from conversations to dates, and eventually to physical intimacy. Guilt almost never crossed my mind. By the time we first kissed, I was already certain of my love for him and his for me. We even made plans to leave our respective spouses and get married. My friend Carol had gone through a messy divorce and shared how her ex took control of their assets, making it difficult for her to even seek legal help. Because of that, John and I discreetly took control of everything. Although I wasn't sure how his wife would react, I knew Dave wouldn't be happy. We had previously discussed what constituted cheating, and I realized I had already crossed that line by a mile. Before John and I made our intentions public, I was fully prepared to give Dave whatever the courts deemed fair in the divorce settlement. My primary goal was to be in control and protect myself against any potential retaliation. It was Carol who brought up the question of whether I had slept with John yet. I didn't truly enjoy making love, but a woman needs to feel desired. I believe my husband still found me attractive. He often sought affection from me. If only I felt the same way about Dave as I did about John, maybe this whole situation could have been avoided. Carol planted doubts in my mind. What if John had a small instrument, or couldn't last very long when I actually wanted intimacy? I wanted it to be pleasurable, didn't I? At this stage in my life, intimacy was more about the emotional thrill than the physical act. I didn't expect John to be as experienced as Dave. Dave was affectionate, gentle, and eager to please. This line of thinking is what ultimately led me to betray my marriage. My first intimate encounter with John had two goals: to test him out and to strengthen our bond for the challenges ahead, and to be honest with myself. I wanted to make sure John was committed to our plans. Deep down, I sensed he was rather weak-willed. I understand what you're thinking. Did I ever consider the possibility of getting caught and facing Dave's wrath? Did I think about how this would affect my father and my children? The simple answer is no. I never expected to get caught. And even if I was, I never anticipated Dave's extreme reaction. As for the other issues, I simply didn't consider them. Okay, I never compare myself to my mother. She left us when I was a little girl, so that wasn't a factor for me. Despite all the fallout, I want to make it clear that intimacy with John wasn't as incredible as one might think. His instrument was okay, but it was far below Dave's level. Although he lasted a reasonable amount of time, I felt uncomfortable. In the end, I faked enjoying it, just like I used it with Dave. Men and their egos. Honestly, I still cannot comprehend how Dave discovered my single act of infidelity, but that doesn't matter to me anymore. Seeing the pain in his eyes when he walked into the room shattered me. Initially, I tried to rationalize my actions, but it was useless. Dave never deserved such a betrayal. My guilt quickly morphed into defiance, albeit briefly, before dissipating. The realization that my father had witnessed my transgression, coupled with my daughter's words, devastated me. The pain reflected in John's children's eyes was equally agonizing. I never imagined my husband was capable of such cruelty. Upon receiving the call from the hospital about John's admission, I instinctively knew Dave was involved. Even though the doctors attributed John's injuries to a hit-and-run accident, I harbored different beliefs. This led me to contact the police, providing Dave's name and his vehicle's license plate number. However, when I followed up on the investigation 2 days later, Dave was no longer considered a person of interest. That is why I stayed by John's side throughout his week-long hospitalization. I understood he needed my protection. Up until 8 weeks prior, if you had asked me if my Dave was capable of such a thing, I would have firmly denied it. But during those 15 minutes in my old bedroom, I glimpsed a new, monstrous side of Dave, a monster I realized I had helped create. A monster capable of boundless cruelty. I was certain it was Dave. That is why, just before John was discharged, I called Dave and arranged to meet at our old house. This had to end. Hadn't he exacted enough revenge already? Both John and I were ruined. Wasn't that enough? Approaching my front door filled me with sadness, though not as much as the conversation that followed. How had love so quickly turned into enmity? Before ringing the doorbell, I called Carol and instructed her to contact the police if she didn't hear from me in an hour. Dave answered the door dressed in his bathrobe, which struck me as unusual. His face was entirely devoid of expression as he welcomed me inside. When he asked for my phone and purse, I cursed myself for not thinking to bring a recorder, but then I questioned its usefulness anyway. He would never confess to the assault. I briefly stared at the stranger who had been a part of my life for 27 years. Regret washed over me regarding how our marriage had ended. I hoped that by explaining my side of the story, I could alleviate some of his pain and perhaps soften his stance. However, he cut me off immediately, showing absolutely no interest in my explanations. His tone was harsh, his expression blank. Who was this man? His face and voice were entirely unfamiliar to me. I was shocked when he casually confessed to assaulting John. Upon hearing his reasoning, I fully understood his motive. Let's just say it didn't alleviate my guilt in the slightest. I truly couldn't comprehend why Dave harbored so much animosity toward John. He quickly enlightened me on the matter. Suddenly, I realized how selfish I had become, how it had clouded my judgment and led me to completely justify the unacceptable. Suddenly, I understood not only the reason for our punishment, but also, judging by Dave's expression, that he wasn't finished yet. Including my question about whether he remembered the feeling of being in love was part of my rehearsed speech. His response felt like a sharp stab to the stomach. How could a fundamentally decent person feel any other way? I knew I had to run. My question about potential future retaliation was simply to gauge the extent of his intentions. I never imagined John's wife posed a physical threat until Dave's comments. I suddenly found myself empathizing with her situation, considering what I would do if the roles were reversed. A chill ran down my spine when I realized she was upstairs. I quickly grabbed John from the hospital, and together we fled. Both divorces were finalized, and the paperwork arrived at our P.O. box, miles away from my new residence. The stress of living incognito, without friends, and in constant fear was overwhelming. Eventually, we got some money, but the waiting period was grueling. We struggled to find employment, only managing to land commission-based real estate jobs with significant gaps in income. John and I married 6 months later, but in hindsight, it was a hasty decision born out of desperation. We were like two lost souls thrown together, and getting married seemed like a way to justify the pain we had inflicted, especially upon ourselves. My recent downfall started innocently enough. John's one remaining testicle never functioned properly, rendering him incapable of making love. We couldn't afford the testosterone treatment needed to resolve the issue, which made him irritable, insecure, and jealous. Let's be honest, a marriage built on infidelity faces an uphill battle from the start. His irritable mood also made me resentful. A friend suggested hormone replacement therapy, HRT, because it had solved a similar issue for her. I hesitated due to the expected cost, but she explained that since every other woman over 45 was taking it, it was much more affordable than testosterone therapy. After a visit to the doctor, life miraculously returned to a happier course. However, my doctor warned me that the medication had a side effect. He mentioned it with a smile, as if it were a positive thing. But when this happens to the wife of a man who cannot satisfy her, it is incredibly destructive. Suddenly, I felt more aroused than I had been in the 5th year of my marriage to Dave. Yet, we had no intimacy with John. I quickly learned to hide my pleasure toys because John disliked them and was jealous of me. When a younger colleague at my new job started showing interest in me, I found myself unable to resist, despite the significant age difference. I was flattered by his attention. Keeping our encounters a secret was incredibly stressful, especially given John's intense jealousy, which made it much harder than dealing with Dave's suspicions. Our first kiss felt strangely familiar, like a strong sense of déjà vu, but it was more unsettling than exciting. I decided not to repeat the mistake of cheating any further. After much reflection, I settled on a far from ideal solution, believing that John should respect my needs. So, last Thursday night, I sat John down and gently explained that I wouldn't be home on Friday night. I needed to seek intimacy elsewhere. I assured him it would be discreet, purely physical, and that I would spare him any details. His silence that Thursday night and Friday morning felt like a reluctant agreement to me. After a brief encounter with my new lover, who promptly fell asleep, I felt ashamed and returned home to our trailer, only to discover that John had disappeared. At dawn, the sound of sirens revealed the sad truth. John was gone. Once again, I had ruined a man. As I braced myself for his expected revenge, I was shocked to find only a suicide note and a letter to his lawyer. An email with his suicide note was sent to our friends, prompting them to swiftly cut all ties with me. Meanwhile, in the letter to his lawyer, the beneficiaries of his life insurance and were changed from me to his children. I realized too late the consequences of wounding a man's pride. When will I ever learn?